Each of us is going to have 4 minutes. 4 minutes, right? And since Is Jesus God is a Christian topic, I'll be the one defending that proposition. Answering Christianity can begin by asking me a question. But before we do that, he's asked for 2-minute opening statements, which we will do. But let me get the timekeeper ready. Let's see if the timekeeper is ready. Is the timekeeper here? What happened to Tweety? Okay, Tweety. We're going to give 2-minute opening statements. Is Jesus God? So keep time, but again, I'm going to ask Answering Christianity. Do you want me to go first, Answering Christianity? Or do you want to... Okay. 2 minutes opening statements, and then we're going to have 4 minutes each back and forth. Please keep time. And just to be fair, let us know, for example, when we're at the 3-minute mark, 2-minute mark, 1 minute, and then let us know time. He's got a 2-minute opening statement, and I'll follow it up. Okay, Answering Christianity, you can begin.
Can someone just invite Karim Sunni? So, okay, anyway, you can start my time. Tonight's topic, as everyone knows, is quite simple. Is Jesus God? Of course, I don't believe he's God. And I don't believe the first four Gospels of Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John. I don't believe they preach he's God at all. I believe they preach that he's the Messiah, a prophet, and that's it. And he did mighty miracles and great works. As a Muslim, I believe Jesus was a prophet, the Messiah, and I said no cheerleading. So Answering Islam, tell your Sarah, no cheerleading on the text, no lols, no laughing. Let's keep it a bit serious, please. So me, as a Muslim, I believe Jesus is the Messiah, the prophet, born of a virgin birth, a miracle birth from the Virgin Mary. And I'm not going to quote any Quranic passages to prove my point. What I will do by the end of the debate is show that actually the New Testament and the Quran are actually in agreement on most terms. But again, when I prove my point that Jesus is not God, I'm not going to quote anything from the Quran. I'm just going to quote the New Testament. That's it. No hadith, no Bible, no Quran, and that's it. So I just want to make this opening statement so the people at home who are going to listen to this later know my position, and they will know your position, and they're going to know what we're debating. So anyway, the mic is yours, so then you can come give your 2 minutes, and I can go with my 4. So thank you.
Okay, I want you to note the first thing. He first said, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John do not teach that Jesus is God. But then he expanded that in his final comments by saying that the New Testament, he will show, agrees with the Quran. So he went above and beyond the 4 Gospels to include the New Testament. I don't want you to forget that. It's being recorded. The New Testament agrees with the Quran that Jesus is not God. This is what he said. Right? So I'm glad you stated that. Now, the Christian position is very basic and very simple. Based on the New Testament, we believe that Jesus is fully God, has all the essential attributes of deity, who also became a true human being. A true human being, yet without sin. So the Bible will teach that Christ is God and has the attributes of God, and man and has the attributes of humanity simultaneously. It's not either or. Any attack on the Christian belief on the deity of Christ that seeks to affirm that he's fully human will be a straw man, a distortion of what we believe as Christians on the testimony of the Bible. Furthermore, the very New Testament also teaches that Jesus is personally distinct from the Father and the Spirit, so any references to Jesus praying to God does not refute the doctrine of the Trinity on the basis of what the Bible teaches. It only exposes the person's ignorance and distortion of historic Christian teaching. So again, let me repeat again. We believe on the basis of God's true word, the New Testament, that Jesus is fully God and fully human. 2 natures united in one person, not either or but both and that there are 3 persons who are distinct that exist as one God. Anything that seeks to undermine the Trinity that doesn't take that into consideration is a distortion and shows that the person has no case against what the Bible teaches. Well, go ahead. It's your turn, Answering Christianity, to take the mic and ask what you want. Time. 4 minutes, Tweety. Thanks.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. It's good to debate here, as it's all mostly Christians, like a church. First of all, when I said the New Testament, from context, everyone I think agrees with me and can see that I meant Mark, Luke, John, and Matthew. I said those 4 books, then I said New Testament, referring to them. So anyway, my first argument is actually quite a simple one. It's very simple. You Christians, you probably heard it over and over again, and you probably think it's a bit funny, but maybe not. It's actually very simple. My first argument is this. You come to me saying Jesus is God. Okay, that's fair enough. Forget everything he did, forget all of that. I just want you to bring me the simple quote where Jesus said what? Where Jesus said what? Where Jesus said, I am God. Can you bring me that? That's all I ask for. Because you're telling me Jesus is God, and then you're making false witness. I've never even seen him make that comment once. So why should I believe in Jesus when he himself never says God? Who do you want me to believe? Do you want me to believe your word or Jesus? Now, the reason why actually this is a good argument is because you say Jesus is the God of the Old Testament, so therefore they're the same God. But when we read the Old Testament, God time and time again makes it clear, and he says, I am God. Let me quote a few references for you from the Old Testament. This is just to show that in the Old Testament, God said he's God. So why in the New Testament, the first 4 books, Jesus never says it once? Exodus 22, I am the Lord thy God. Psalms 46:10, be still and know that I am God. Psalms 81, verse 10, I am the Lord thy God. Isaiah 45, verse 3, the ending, I am the God of Israel. Isaiah 45, I am the Lord and there is no one else, no God beside me. Why does Jesus never say, I am God, there is no God beside me? All you're telling me, you're bringing me these verses, John 1:1, you're going to bring that up. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Was that Jesus speaking? I don't think so. That was someone else speaking. And first of all, that actually doesn't really prove anything, that verse to me, but you can bring it up later. But bring me something from Jesus' own words where he said, I am God. Not I am, or this and that. Just the explicit, simple verse. And it's in God's nature that he says, I am God, I am the God, I am the Lord, there is no one else beside me. Jesus never says it once. Coincidence? I don't think so. Was Jesus shy? Is Jesus shy to go say, I'm God? Is God shy of the people? What are you going to say? Are you going to tell me that Jesus as man, he didn't tell the people I am God because it would be too strange for them to accept? Then he could have said it when he was dying. When he was dying, he could have said, I am God. Or he could have told his disciples in secret that I am God. But later on, I'm going to show you what Jesus said to his disciples in secret. And he said, far from it. He didn't say I'm God. He said something else that actually proves he isn't God. In fact, Jesus' own followers didn't believe he's God. But that's I'm going to show it later. So anyway, Sam Shamoun, bring me one verse where Jesus said, I am God. There is no God beside me. That's all I want. It's so simple. It's an easy challenge. But I'm hoping you can do that. Maybe I've never read the first 4 Gospels good enough. But I think I know what you're going to do. You're going to bring up miracles, this and that. But that's not what I want. I want the explicit verse where Jesus says, I am God. My time is up. The microphone is for you. Thank you.
Okay, I want you to catch the inconsistency and the attempt of using deception. He first said that he wants statements from Jesus, but then if you remember in the last part, he says he's going to show that even the disciples did not affirm that Jesus is God. So if he's going to quote the disciples to prove a position, then I can appeal to the same disciples to prove my position. He also said that he's going to prove his case from the New Testament that Jesus isn't God. But he went to the Old Testament to try to use that as a helpful document to prove his case that Jesus isn't God. So he goes out of the New Testament, he appeals to the Old Testament to prove his case, and then he wants to appeal to the statements of the disciples to prove his case, but then he wants to put me in a straitjacket and limit me to the 4 Gospels. So I want you to note the deception, right, and the attempt at evasion, but I'm not going to fall for his trick. First of all, when you quote the Old Testament where God affirms he is deity, you're dealing with a different context from the New Testament where Jesus is truly, fully human. He took on flesh and the limitations of flesh. So before he could go around boasting about being God, he must first affirm the personal distinctions of the members of the Godhead. Let me repeat that, because I want you to get the point and not distort it. When Jesus is on earth as a man, he must first affirm that he is distinct from the Father. He's not the same person as the Father. So if he went around as a Jew saying that he is God, that may lead into the misunderstanding that he's claiming to be God the Father. That's the first point. Secondly, while as a man, he must first give proof of who he is before he can go around saying that he's God. Anyone can claim to be God, but you need to prove it. So I want to repeat those 2 points so you don't distort what I'm saying and you don't attack straw men. When Christ is on earth as a man, he must first affirm that he's not the same person as the Father, because in first century Palestine, when you speak of God, God is commonly used of the Father. For him to say, without qualification, that he is God may lead into the misunderstanding that he's God the Father. That's why he goes out of his way to affirm his distinction from the Father, but at the same time use language to affirm that he's equal to the Father, not in authority but in essence. Moreover, being a man, he can't just go around and say that he's God. He must first prove that he's God in essence and not the Father by his actions. This is why you do not find an explicit reference from Christ while on earth saying, I am God, because he has to safeguard that distinction between him and the Father and prove who he is in essence by his actions. And it's not until after the resurrection where we find that the disciple Thomas affirms that Jesus is my Lord and my God, because now Christ had provided the greatest proof of who he is, that he's God in essence, the divine Son of God, the resurrection. So again, answering Christianity, instead of trying to put me in a straitjacket, it won't work. That deceptive method is going to turn against you, because you want to appeal to the Old Testament and the disciples to try to disprove the deity of Christ, but put me in a corner and say, no, you got to quote Jesus and only from the 4 Gospels. I'm sorry, that's not how you do debate. Nice evasion, nice trick, it won't work. Now in my next 4 minutes, I'm going to show you where Jesus claims to be God, and I'm going to show it to you explicitly, but nice tactics, it won't work. Deceptive methodology doesn't get too far in light of the truth. So go ahead. You have 4 minutes.
Actually, nice evasion on your part. For 4 minutes I waited, and you said no, he doesn't say it. So thank you. Nice evasion on your part, and then trying to evade it by making it look like it's not bad. You see, if you heard me closely in my 4 minutes, I told you, I specifically addressed that. You said, and I said, okay, Jesus didn't say he's God because people wouldn't believe him. Fair enough. It's crazy, you say. But then why didn't he say it when he was dying? He's gonna die, so just say it then. You have killed God. Why not say it then? You see? I told you you're gonna say yes, okay, and it makes sense. Sure, he didn't say I'm God, because people would have probably thought he's crazy, but he could have said it when he's dead. Before he dies, on the cross. Why didn't he say it then? Secondly, the reason I say I'm gonna quote the disciples is because me saying Jesus didn't say he's not God is... Okay, Usama, no comments, please. We made an agreement. Anyway, the reason... Let me start from the beginning. Again, the reason I went to the Old Testament is because you say Jesus is the God of the Old Testament. So we have to show they have the same nature. That's it. I showed you from the Old Testament, the God saying I'm God a dozen times. You're saying this is the same God. So I want to see the same nature. Secondly, again, Jesus just could have said I'm God when he was dying. And I was saying when I said to Sama, don't disturb, when I said that, what I was about to say was the reason I'm going to quote the disciples is because me saying Jesus didn't say he's God isn't good enough. You don't like that. You're going to say, so what? So I have to quote the disciples for you, for further proof. Me coming and saying Jesus never said he's God, debate over, you're not going to like that, are you? I have to quote the disciples for you. So anyway, you agree, Jesus never said I am God. So why should I believe he's God? Should I take your word or Jesus' words? Jesus never said I am Yahweh or whoever.